Greetings and salutations, everybody. My name is Andrew Kirchhoff, and today we're going to be talking about the fantasy football top 10 quarterback rankings. So this is a new series I'm going to start prior to the beginning of the regular season. For the next couple days and weeks, I'm going to be talking about the top 10 of every position: quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, even kickers and defenses. Right? We're going to get deep with it. But for today, we're obviously going to be talking about the quarterbacks. As you can see on screen, we got maybe one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, Tom Brady. But before we begin, I just want to thank everybody who's currently even watching this video. If you're watching this video, you're the reason why I keep making content, right? Continue to support me. Continue to subscribe, like, ask questions in the comments, share it with your friends. I know it's not a common thing, right? Especially when it comes to the fantasy football season. People do not like to share, fantasy advice or content with their friends because they're always competing with their friends, right? They don't want to give their friends that upper hand. But anything would help, honestly. Anything will help. I appreciate everybody that's already subscribed. If I'm not mistaken, we're at 80. We're on our way to that big 100. I can't thank you guys enough, honestly. I appreciate it. I ask every episode for a handful of you just to subscribe, to like, to comment, and you guys follow through. So I'm going to continue to follow through myself, put out content that you guys can enjoy, and prepare you for the fantasy football season. So anyway, let's get right into it. Hey everybody, how's it going? So let's get right into it. As you can see on the screen, we have Aaron Rodgers, right? It's kind of hard not to argue that Aaron Rodgers is the best quarterback in fantasy football on a yearly basis, right? I mean, just in 2016, right? In 2016, Aaron Rodgers was responsible for 44 total touchdowns, right? It was 40 passing touchdowns and 4 rushing touchdowns, right? So that was in 2016, right? I'll get to 2017 in a little bit, right? But just off of that scale, we know for a fact that Aaron Rodgers is a guy that's going to put up 35 passing touchdowns on a yearly basis. He'll probably run a couple in here and there, but we know that he's a monster, right? I mean, Aaron Rodgers is going to go down as a Hall of Fame quarterback, and it's just hard to not keep him at the number one spot, especially when you're playing in a 6-point per passing touchdown league, So in 2017, Aaron Rodgers, obviously against the Minnesota Vikings in about week 6, if I'm not mistaken, broke his collarbone when Anthony Barr laid the wood on him, and it was a tough loss for many fantasy owners. So this is the way I see it, right? In the 6 games that Aaron Rodgers did play, right? He played 5 games, broke his collarbone, came back against the Carolina Panthers in week 15, if I'm not mistaken, to see if they could make the playoffs. Aaron Rodgers threw for 16 touchdowns in 6 games, right? He was on pace for that ever-elusive 40 touchdowns again, right? He was going to reach 40 touchdowns if he was fully healthy, especially with Jordy Nelson still there. Now, coming into the 2018 season, there's no more Jordy Nelson, but the additions of Jimmy Graham are now a part of the team. They've made improvements to the offensive line. Everybody's healthy. They've been shopping around Randall Cobb as of late, which I think is kind of it's a good and bad sign at the same time. You want, fantasy owners that eventually will pick up Aaron Rodgers, want more value at the wide receiver position so that Aaron Rodgers has more targets to get you more points, right? But the upside of that is if they're shopping Randall Cobb, then they're very confident in one of their up-and-coming wide receivers, okay? Whether it's one of their rookie wide receivers, maybe it's Geronimo Allison, Jeff Janis, one of these guys, they're making leaps and bounds in the preseason at training camp, and it's given the team confidence enough to try to shop Randall Cobb. Maybe they're even thinking about going for Dez Bryant. You never know. There's always a market out there for Dez Bryant. Maybe his home is in Green Bay, Wisconsin. You never know. But anyway, the moral of the story is with Aaron Rodgers, he is going to be the first quarterback taken in every draft. If he's not, then, I don't know. Someone made a mistake, to be honest. He's going to consistently be great. And that's all pretty much I have to say. He's the number one ranked by everyone. And, this will probably be one of the non-surprise picks. So let's get into the more or less surprise pick. My number 2 for this coming season, for the 2018 season, right? I've got Cam Newton as my number 2 quarterback, right? Now everyone's thinking, oh my God, Andrew's crazy. What is this? The shock value. What is he doing? Okay, now listen. Okay, listen to me. I'm going to try to make this argument for why I think Cam Newton, honestly, without a doubt, is going to be the number 2 quarterback in fantasy this year. Okay, so in my opinion, and honestly, as soon as I say it, it'll begin to convince you. Cam Newton has not had this much talent surrounding him throughout his entire career. Okay, even when they went 15-1 in the regular season, he had won the MVP, they'd gone to the Super Bowl. He did not have this much talent surrounding him. In 2018, okay, having Devin Funchess, Torrey Smith, DJ Moore, rookie out of Maryland, Curtis Samuel, second-year guy, probably makes leaps and bounds and contributes a lot more this coming season. Greg Olsen coming back from injury. Christian McCaffrey, who in my opinion, as you'll see when we get to that top 10 running back video, he'll be on that list. And CJ Anderson, who is he's a better upgrade to the Jonathan Stewart they had last season, right? The offensive line, in my opinion, is great. The right side of the offensive line is, dominant with Try Turner there. The center, Ryan Khalil, he's a stud, right? Left tackle, banged up, but I honestly think with the talent and, just pure monsters that surround Cam Newton this coming season, it's only going to make him better, right? Only making him better, being able to, perhaps keep him in the pocket longer will do the trick. But Cam Newton also likes to run, right? So last season, Cam Newton had 28 total touchdowns, 3,300 passing yards. But the caveat, right? This is really why Cam Newton is so valued. He had 754 rushing yards, okay? 754 rushing yards. He had more rushing yards than anybody on the Panthers, right? He was the leading rusher. Now, that's not the way you want to protect your franchise quarterback, right? No one wants to do that. But when Cam Newton is 6'5", 260, and he can run over linebackers, he's got to go. He's got them wheels too. He's not, Noodle Neck Manning that has to fall down as soon as he thinks he's about to get sacked. Cam Newton's young. He's strong. He takes way too many hits, I think. But I think with the addition to all these athletes that are going to produce around him, it's going to make him the number 2 quarterback this coming season. And that's it. That's the big shock, right? There's going to be a couple more that you're going to see and be like, what? Like in the top 10? Yeah, I like Cam Newton this year. Okay, so let's move on, right? Tom Brady. Okay. Oh my God, it's a big shock. No, it's not a big shock. Tom Brady. He's Mr. Consistency, right? On a yearly basis, this man continues to get better at his job, right? And you would think at 40 years old, you'd begin to decline when it comes to getting hit by other grown men at full speed. But he's found a way to he's found the fountain of youth. He's getting smarter every season. He's taking care of his body, and he's coming out and he's producing fantasy-wise like no other, right? Last season, he had 32 touchdown passes for 4,500 yards, almost 4,600 yards. It was 4,577, if I'm not mistaken. Honestly, Tom Brady, what's the argument against him? Like, he's old? Okay, sure, but he was in the Super Bowl last year, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, he had the most passing yards in Super Bowl history. With the sound, we just talked about Cam Newton and the talent that surrounds him. I think Brady's just on that same boat, right? Yes, they got rid of Brandon Cooks, but here comes back Edelman from that ACL injury. Yes, he's going to be suspended for 4 games, but okay, what's 4 games? That's a quarter of the season, yes, but I think in the long run, he'll be the main benefactor. Edelman will be the main benefactor of the Brandon Cooks departure. Hogan, Gronkowski, Burkhead, James White, Sony Michel, right? These guys, Will Tye. These are low-key tight ends, right? Will Tye. I think he played for the Giants last season, right? Cordell Patterson. They just cut Kenny Britt. They cut Jordan Matthews. They're going to start cutting off people. Eric Decker, right? This offense, right, is set, in my opinion, to surround Tom Brady. He's surrounded with talent on a yearly basis, and he's going to throw for 30-plus touchdowns, right? He's going to throw for 30-plus touchdowns. I don't see it any differently. That's why I have him on my number 3. It's hard to argue against him until he shows us that he's not capable of making the AFC Championship game on a yearly basis. So that's why I have Tom Brady at 3, and I don't think it's going to change until this man decides to retire, honestly. Okay, so we got ourselves Russell Wilson, okay? Now, this might be the bigger shocker, right? I thought about having maybe Tom Brady at number 2 or having Russell Wilson at number 2, but I honestly believe that Cam Newton's going to have a great season. And then I thought to myself, what's stopping Russell Wilson from being that number 3 ranked quarterback in fantasy? Now, I'm thinking it's mainly because of what surrounds Russell Wilson. The unfortunate fact of the matter is that Russell Wilson doesn't have much talent surrounding him, right? They got rid of Jimmy Graham, like I talked about earlier. Aaron Rodgers has Jimmy Graham to throw to. 10 touchdowns is probably a guarantee. They lost Paul Richardson to the Washington Redskins. Yes, the Washington Redskins. Rashad Penny, their first-round pick, isn't looking like the stud that they thought. There is a running back that's stepping up in camp. It's Chris Carson. He's most likely going to be the starting running back. And we'll see where that goes. But then again, their offensive line, the Seahawks offensive line is not great. It wasn't great last year, and I don't think they did much to improve it, to be honest, right? The way I see it, Russell Wilson, stat-wise, last season had 586 rushing yards. He was the lead rusher of the organization last season, right? He had 346 rushing yards more than the next person, who is Mike Davis. Now, tell me, do you even know who Mike Davis is? Because I don't. Who the heck is Mike Davis? How did he get even the second most? Okay, I think if I'm not mistaken, he had 240 rushing yards. The next lead rusher after Russell Wilson was 240 rushing yards, guys. That's embarrassing. Now, the way I see it, if Chris Carson, Rashad Penny start to get going, and this offensive line can actually cut off blocks and actually make some holes, the Seahawks want to run the ball more, right? Their offense, they don't want to put Russell Wilson in situations where he has to, throw the ball, run the ball, get down the field and get hurt. That's not how you want to protect your franchise quarterback, just with Cam, right? But the way I see it, I think they're going to run the ball more this season, which is going to decrease his value just a tad bit. And I don't see him, the wide receivers that are on this team right now, Doug Baldwin and Tyler Lockett, right? They're probably the 1 and 2 option. I see Doug Baldwin having a really good season, perhaps even a top 10 season, right? Just because of the fact that there's no more Jimmy Graham, right? They're going to have, if I'm not mistaken, the tight end's Nick Vannett. He's a second-year guy, maybe even a rookie. Who are they going to throw the ball to? Where is he going to? Last season, right? Russell Wilson had 34 passing touchdowns, right? And almost 4,000 passing yards. Where are those 34 passing touchdowns going to go, right? Are they going to score 34 passing touchdowns? I think they're going to have to try to adjust a little bit, help out Russell Wilson by running the ball, keeping the ball out of his hands, right, to keep him protected. And then, maybe he ends up at 30 if he's lucky this season, right? Last season he had 37 total touchdowns. If he's lucky, he'll get to 30 this year. That's just my opinion. I'm just afraid of Russell Wilson and that terrible offensive line, honestly. And him not having a lot of weapons, it's a little scary, especially with the division that they play in, playing against the Rams twice a season. Now you got to play against a revitalized 49ers team. And don't sleep on them Cardinals. I'm telling you, the Cardinals are a good team, okay? Last season, they went 8-8, right? With a combination of Palmer, Drew Stanton, and Blaine Gabbert, okay? So don't sleep on them. All right, so my number 5 quarterback, here it is, okay? I'm telling you right now, I can definitively say it. I love Kirk Cousins, okay? When it comes to fantasy football, I love Kirk Cousins, okay? Now, you might be thinking, Andrew, what's wrong with you? You okay? You feeling well? Maybe you got sick, you got a bug. No, I'm feeling great. Honestly, I'm feeling great. And I really like Kirk Cousins at this number 5 spot, okay? So here's my argument towards it. Okay, what Kirk Cousins was able to, produce last season is astonishing in my opinion, Okay. In 2016, he had Pierre Garçon and Deshaun Jackson, who had both had 1,000 yards receiving that year. Okay. In 2016. Okay. Now, in 2017, not only did Kirk Cousins lose Pierre Garçon to the 49ers and Deshaun Jackson to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Redskins lost their offensive coordinator. Okay. They had lost Chris Thompson after 10 weeks. They had lost offensive linemen left, right, and center. I think Pro Football Focus had a statistic that they had the most offensive line combinations throughout the entire season, which means is like you have 5 offensive linemen. If you take one out and put one in, that's a different combination. So there was 20 different combinations of offensive linemen throughout the whole year. So they had a roster of 10 offensive linemen, and they all played. Why? Because they were dropping like flies. So with a subpar offensive line, with 2,000-yard receivers gone, one to California and one to South Beach, okay? Kirk Cousins was sitting there with a Jamison Crowder that did not look like the 2017 Jamison Crowder. He had Jordan Reed hurt before the season even started. Yet he was able to produce 31 total touchdowns and 4,000 passing yards. Somebody tell me I'm wrong. Somebody tell me. In the comments right now, you're listening to this, tell me I'm wrong. Tell me that Kirk Cousins wasn't incredible last season. Because he won me a fantasy championship, right? I mean, I'm just letting you know. So when you're going into the Vikings organization in 2018, a team that honestly is capable of winning a Super Bowl, right? Defensively, they just picked up George Iloka yesterday. They don't need safeties. Yet they're going and picking up guys, right? They're acquiring talent on a weekly basis because they know that their team is capable of winning a Super Bowl. Just look at the talent that surrounds Kirk Cousins this year. Adam Thielen, the low-key guy that is now a Pro Bowler, right? A guy that was a special teams, player, plain and simple. Until 2 years back, he started to get into the fold of the offense, started to produce. Now he's a Pro Bowler, okay? Stephon Diggs, yes, he can't stay healthy, but I'm telling you, if he stays healthy this year, there's some big things happening. Kyle Rudolph. If you haven't seen my Kyle Rudolph video, how dare you? No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead and watch that. It's pretty good. Dalvin Cook. This offensive line, yes, it's a little banged up right now, but by the beginning of the season, we'll be ready, right? I'm telling you, Kirk Cousins this year, top 5 quarterback, without a doubt in my mind. Just off of, I'm telling you, what he was capable of producing last season. With the garbage that surrounded him in that Gruden offense. God, it was ridiculous, okay? I'm telling you, Kirk Cousins, top 5 quarterback, okay, guys? Do not doubt it. All right, so speaking of Super Bowls and top quarterbacks, here's Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz, right? Played 13 games last season, tore his ACL, trying to run for a touchdown. He got hit by Mark Barron or something, or Alec Ogletree on the Rams. I don't know. Somebody knocked him out so badly he tore his ACL. But what was he capable of doing in 13 weeks? 33 touchdowns, 3,300 passing yards. I think he broke a franchise record for passing touchdowns. I think he beat Donovan McNabb's record. Carson Wentz was incredible last season. In my opinion, no matter what, he should have been the MVP of the league. Okay, the NFL MVP should have been Carson Wentz. I don't care what anybody says. He was honestly the fantasy MVP for a good amount of time until he got injured. He took whatever team had Carson Wentz was making the playoffs no matter what else they had, right? Just because of how excellent he was. Through 13 games, he had 33 touchdowns, right? Just on pace. That's almost 2.5 touchdown per game average. I mean, let's be real. He was on, What am I saying? What am I saying, Hedge? What are you mumbling about? I don't know. I don't know what I'm mumbling about. I just can't get the words out. Okay, well, maybe you should just think, breathe, don't say anything for a couple seconds, and then you can just go ahead and make a coherent sentence work. Okay, sorry about that. Let me just go ahead and breathe. All right, there you go, Andrew. Just breathe. Okay. So, last season with Alshon Jeffrey, with Zach Ertz especially, wow. Nelson Aguilar contributing. They had Torrey Smith last season, but he's no longer with the organization. They went and picked up Mike Wallace, right? With Corey Clement bringing in Jay Ajayi, I think Carson Wentz is going to be a top quarterback, right? And I think he has something to prove. I've been saying it for months now, right? He's got a chip on his shoulder. I think he might be a little, pissed off that Nick Foles was able to win that Super Bowl, right? Because I think Carson Wentz, deep inside, he wanted to be the savior of Philadelphia. He wanted to be the guy that brought the Super Bowl. Technically, he did. He got them to the playoffs, right? With his performance throughout the entire season, he got them there, right? But Nick Foles just topped it off and helped out. But I think he's got a chip on his shoulder. I think he has something to prove this year. Coming in, we haven't seen Carson Wentz play, right? He hasn't played this offseason. And to be honest, he tore his ACL in December of last season, right? And with the timetable of what an ACL needs to recover to be back in full shape, it's usually a 9 to 12 month process, which everybody usually sits around that 12 months so that they can, be ready for the next, game that they need to play at full speed. They don't want to have any uncertainty. They want to go in, be completely healthy, because if you're not healthy and you're out there, you have a bigger chance of hurting yourself than ever, right? Carson Wentz, we haven't seen him play. He's sitting around the 9-month mark. He's trying to get back into football 3 months early, to be honest. Okay. Yes, he's got the best offensive line. Yes, the team on paper is probably the second best looking team next to the Rams this coming season. But you never know. Carson Wentz, I see him at number 6 this coming season. I think he's going to be healthy. I don't think he's dumb enough to go out there banged up without 100% confidence in his knee. So I see Carson Wentz being a top 6 quarterback this coming season. And there it is. Okay, let's move to number 7. Okay, another oldie, another guy that literally won't go away is Drew Brees. Okay, so last season, right, Drew Brees had I would say it's an off year. Okay, he only totaled 25 touchdowns, but on a yearly basis, Drew Brees is a guy that throws for like 35 touchdowns, right? He's a guy that throws for 5,100 yards on a yearly basis. But the Saints found a new approach. They started to rely upon 2 running backs by the name of Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara that I've been harping about for the last couple months. I know you've heard about this. So they went, the Saints offense went from a pass-first offense to a run-first offense. And their team is truly built around it, right? Their defense is stacked. Their offensive line has got some good Pro Bowlers there. Ryan Ramczyk at the right tackle position came in last year beautifully as a rookie. He picked up Zach Strief's, job after Strief, boom, was done. I think Drew Brees this year, yes, he's going to be a good quarterback, but I think the Saints really want to take the ball out of his hands. They don't want Drew Brees to be throwing the ball, unless he really has to, right? They want to dictate the game by having a slow, methodical pace, bruising that defense with 2 running backs and a great offensive line. And I think they want to, keep Drew Brees as healthy as possible because they have a chance of winning a Super Bowl, right? I've been saying this about all these teams, right? There's a correlation. If you've got a great quarterback, you can make it to the Super Bowl. But that's not the only thing, right? There's obviously defense and people that surround you. But I truly believe the Saints, one tackle would have made a difference, right? If that kid last season didn't miss that tackle on Stephon Diggs, maybe there's a little bit of a difference. But I think this year, Drew Brees in the first 4 weeks without Mark Ingram, I don't think they're going to run the ball as much. He's going to probably be more proactive in the passing game, trying to just score touchdowns as much as they can, especially playing. I think the Saints have an extremely easy schedule early. You know what? I'm just going to go ahead and check that up because if I'm not mistaken, the Saints have schedule 2018. They've got a pretty easy schedule early. I don't want to see no preseason games. Thank you. So, first game of the season, Buccaneers. Piece of cake. Second game of the season, Browns. Should be a piece of cake defensively, right? Third game of the year, Falcons. I think Drew Brees plays pretty well against the Falcons. Let's be honest, okay? He does it every year anyway, right? And then they got the Giants. First 4 games of the season look like pieces of cake for me. I think that he's going to throw all over them, to be honest. Anyway, so then after Mark Ingram comes back, obviously he's going to regress a little bit. He's not going to throw the ball as much because they kind of want to get back into that 2 running back, 2-headed monster scheme that they had last season. So anyway, that's why I have Drew Brees at number 7 rather than higher at like a 4 or 5 position because I don't think he's going to throw the ball as much this year, just like he did last year. Okay, so number 8. we got Matthew Stafford. Okay, so why do I got Stafford up here, right? I wish they still had Calvin Johnson. Man, I wish they still had Calvin Johnson. But Stafford is, he's surrounded with a good amount of talent, right? Golden Tate, Marvin Jones, Kenny Galladay. Now that they've got Matt Patricia as the head coach, I think they kept Jim Bob Cooter as their offensive coordinator, which is a good thing. Keep that offensive coordinator quarterback rapport together so that you can have a productive offense. But Matt Patricia is probably bringing in that Patriots way of where they want to run the ball more. Okay, this team is purely a pass first, pass second, pass third option, right? Like they don't even think about running the ball until it's 4th and inches, and even then, I think they might throw the ball. Over the last couple seasons, you can tell statistically, Amir Abdullah, Theo Riddick, these aren't guys that are being given the ball out of the backfield to run. They're usually used as guys to catch the ball and kind of dictate the offense that way because they're a pass-first offense. And that helps in fantasy, right? Last season, Matthew Stafford had 25 total touchdowns. Not just passing, but also rushing touchdowns. Total, 25. Which he's, usually at the pace of maybe like 30 on a season. I think this year, he's probably going to sit around that 28 to 30 range. He's probably going to be a little bit better than he was last season with the addition to the run game, right? Now, you might be thinking, Andrew, if they're running the ball more, doesn't that take production away from him? Well, honestly, it really doesn't, right? If you've got an offensive line like the Lions do, seriously, the Lions have one of the best offensive lines this season, right? They've made a lot of traction when it comes to coming in, signing guys, drafting guys, and building something that Matthew Stafford could sit behind for a good amount of time, right? So now that you have a good offensive line, you've brought in guys like LeGarrette Blount, and you drafted Kieran Johnson, right? So you can build up that backfield just like the Patriots like to do, right? They want to have 4 running backs that they can use at whatever capacity they want to, right? They're going to run the ball. It's going to open up play action. It's going to bite down safeties. And Matthew Stafford, I think, is going to have a better year this coming season, okay? So the number 9 quarterback, Phillip Rivers. Cry me a river. If you don't think Phillip Rivers is a top 10 quarterback, you are mistaken. Go down to the comments right now and tell me why. Okay? Because I'm about to prove to you that he is honestly, he's a top 10 quarterback, guys. Okay, so Phillip Rivers, right? These last 2 seasons in 6-point per passing touchdown leagues. Okay? In 6-point per passing touchdown leagues. He was the number 8th ranked season in 2016 and 2017. So, why do I have him at 9? Why isn't he at 8? I think there's going to be a little bit of regression this coming season with the loss of Hunter Henry. As of right now, at tight end, they have Virgil Green. They lost their rookie tight end, I think, tore his ACL. Virgil Green's usually a blocking tight end, but I don't think they really need tight ends, right? You have Melvin Gordon, you have Austin Eckler in the backfield, right? Those are 2 monsters, okay, within their own respective talents. You have Keenan Allen, who, coming back for his second season, after his ACL injury in 2016, Keenan Allen's a huge help for Phillip Rivers, right? You have Tyrell Williams, you have Travis Benjamin, and don't forget they still have Mike Williams. Drafted in the 2017 draft. He was a rookie last season, got injured before the season even started during the training camp session, right? He got injured. They thought maybe he's going to be out for the entire season. He didn't really produce much, right? Because he didn't get really much into, he didn't get much reps, to be honest, right? This coming season, he's a bigger target. I think Phillip Rivers might find him more often, which will give Phillip Rivers more value, okay? Now, this is the only problem with Phillip Rivers, right? This is what holds Phillip Rivers back from being maybe the number 8, maybe number 7, in my opinion. He cannot play against the Kansas City Chiefs to save his life, okay? To save his life, Phillip Rivers cannot beat the Kansas City Chiefs, okay? Last season against the Kansas City Chiefs, okay? It hurts me to say this, right? Because I have him so highly ranked. Yet he gets picked apart by that Andy Reid team, okay? Statistically, against the Chiefs last season, he had 1 touchdown and 6 interceptions. Just saying, guys. I mean, it's rough, but it is what it is. So this coming season, I see him at number 9. I think he's going to be great. Last season, right? The Chargers started 0-4. Okay, they ended the season 9-7. Okay, so that means they turned it around, won 9 out of the 12 games remaining. I think they're going to come back. They're going to be on pace to doing something like that. They might win their division. Just look out for Phillip Rivers in your drafts, guys. He's extremely valuable. 8th ranked in the last 2 seasons, right? Don't forget that. Okay, the last quarterback of our top 10. We have ourselves Deshaun Watson. Okay, I want to finish within the next minute or two because you guys don't have all day to sit here to listen to these videos. Anyway, timestamps below, blah, blah. I probably should have said that earlier. Let's get into Deshaun Watson. So, why is Deshaun Watson breaking into the top 10? Am I biting, on that, oh my God, the hype, Deshaun Watson is going to be amazing? If I was buying into the hype, I would have put him at 5. But I don't truly believe Deshaun Watson is a top 5 quarterback this coming year, right? I don't believe that he can maintain the pace that he had last season, right? Last season, in 7 games played, he had 21 touchdowns total, right? Whether it be passing or rushing. I think it was 19 passing and 3 rushing touchdowns. No, it was 2 rushing touchdowns. Yeah, 21, right? In 7 games, that's a 3 touchdown per game average. So, points-wise, if you're playing in a 6-point per passing touchdown league, you got 18 points right there. You have like 250 passing yards. That's another 10. You got a little bit of rushing yards sprinkled in here and there. You got a 30-point week, right? I don't think he's going to be able to maintain that, guys. I truly don't. Yet, I still think he's talented, right? He's talented enough with the wide receivers, with the offensive line, with the running backs that they have at Houston Texans. Even the defense, right? I think they're capable of being good enough to where Deshaun Watson is going to have a top 10 year, okay? He, in my opinion, is most likely the guy that if he ends up dropping out of this top 10, I'll be the most, I'll probably, let me think about this for a second. How do I want to phrase this? If Deshaun Watson drops out of the top 10, I won't be subscribed. Subscribe to my channel. Hey, surprised. I won't be surprised, right? Because what he did last season is unattainable. Unless he's the next coming of Aaron Rodgers and he's going to be a 40 touchdown a year kind of guy, I don't see him capable of being able to, maintain that pace and produce consistently. He's being drafted so high, guys. I've seen places where he gets drafted number 3 overall. Not number 3 overall, excuse me. He's the number 3 quarterback off the board. There's too much inherent risk with that. I'd rather just wait, grab Phillip Rivers, and then just get a bunch of value at wide receiver, tight end, running back. Boom. Anyway, I want to thank everybody for watching. If you haven't already, please subscribe. We're trying to get to 100. I'm not going out there trying to buy subs, but I would appreciate that if you like this content, that you go ahead and subscribe because there is more coming within this series of top 10s. Appreciate everybody watching. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Next, we're going to be talking about top 10 running backs. So stay tuned, subscribe, share, comment below. If you don't think one of these quarterbacks, one of these guys need to be higher, some of these guys need to be off this list, let me know. I want to hear it. Let's talk about it, please. Anyway, see you guys later.